Here.
Manda Bagas.
Yep, here.
Thank you. Medina.
Here, Kak.
Thank you. And Mila. Hi. Yeah,
Hi.
I can see. Okay. Again, I would like to remind both participants and judges, the debaters of this round and also the judges, if you could please activate your camera during your speech, especially, that would be really great. But if you have certain connection issues, we understand. Okay. And I see that most of you have profile pictures. So yeah, it wouldn't be a blank space. So that's great. All right, without further ado, I'm going to begin the grand final round. With this House believes that developing countries should heavily subsidize electric vehicles. Before proceeding, I would like to introduce our grand final judges. The first one is Aya from UNRAM, Manda Bagas from UNILA, Medina from UGM, Mila from UNRAM, and myself representing MCU Poland. So our grand finalists here on the government team, we have MECA from Mandua Mataram, we have Iqbal, Alivia, and Nabila. And we have Jagan Lupa ALC from LDT, we have Jagan, Alma, and Abdi. Congratulations to both grand finalists. And without further ado, let's proceed. We proudly call upon the first speaker of government. To Alivia, time is yours.
Okay, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, as the first minister, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, and first of all, we want to talk about our status quo right now. In our status quo right now, our government, as our case, when we live in, is getting more severe, that especially climate change, which can affect it to the other kind of disaster if we are not solve it as soon as possible. And this and what be our goal here is we want to save our government by our environment by apply the most effective way for that, and that will harm other all stakeholder inside this case. So I will jump to my argument first why this is urgent. So first, I wanted to stay here is I will analyze the characterization of the developing country itself. The condition of developing country is the biggest pollution there, like in China, in Indonesia, or India. The pollution there come from the transportation, which is almost all people there go anywhere with their own private vehicle, and that the previous attempts for the government in using the public transportation is failed to do because the characterization of the society in the developing country itself is lazy to control with many people, and we think that that's also not effective to apply the public transportation, also not effective to apply. Why do I say so? Because with the society with that, the society have to wait in, for example, the bus stop in waiting the public transportation, because we know that when we using this public transportation, we cannot freely use it whenever and wherever we want, right? And so our other alternative attempts here is subsidize the electric vehicle, because the electric vehicle is kind of the is keep the kind of the private transportation, but it still don't create pollution for the environment. So that will be acceptable because first it's capable with the characteristic of the society in developing country itself, and the second one, it's create the better environment with the less of air pollution. Like for example, in Jakarta and in China, we have 20, one of the 20 the most polluted city of the world that will be beneficial for them. So how we gonna be accept accept this subsidy for the electric cycle is first we will concert this electric recycle project to the Administration of Transportation. Why? Because we know that in our country, Indonesia, already made kind of minister and it's already get the specification of dana can be used in that in the every sector of life in Indonesia. And by using this mechanism, we will make sure that it will harm other economic sector in other sector of life. Oh no, thanks. Second one, we know that the characterization of the electric recycle itself it have to charge in some hour. So our second mechanism is we will make it charging place because so it can in every meals of this thing, so it will keep effective to use. We also wanted to give the subsidies based on the income of the society itself. It means that the society with the lower income will get more subsidized, and also the higher society with the higher income will get less subsidized. Why do we want to do that? Because we want it be balanced before between all societies. So they keep it. So we will keep capable with our society's economic condition. And this also will gonna be more effective because at the end, besides we know that the fossil fuels we use in the our transportation right now is create air pollution for our environment. The second one, the discovery of those fossil fuels also can damage the land because the discovery we have to menggali the land itself. So second one, I will talk about why this is justified to apply. In the economy of a country, there is a concept named that demand and supply. It means that here we wanted to why we wanted to subsidize first, because we want to make it familiar the electric cycle to our society. Because at the end, when the electric no thanks. The electric recycle already used of many used in the high number of the society of our society. It means that we get many demand for the society. So this concept talk about much more demand for the society. So it will spend lower dana at the end. So we wanted to familiar it. So at the end, when it's already when people already use it, many people already use it, the electric cycle will spend less of dana when someone wanna buy it at the future. And by applying this motion, we also wanted to delete the stigma in the society that electric cycle is expensive, because the reason why this electric cycle not used right now, or only less people will use, especially in the developing country, because we know that the developing country is still developed in the term of economy itself. So the societies they think that the electric cycle is much more expensive. So we as the government wanna delete that stigma from the society. Because of this, really important we save our environment by using the electric cycle itself. So I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the first speaker of government. Now we'd like to call upon the first speaker of opposition. To Jagan, time is yours.
Due to the connection problems, I cannot turn on my camera. So sorry.
Understood. That's okay.
All right. I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, as the opposition side of the House, we believe that what we are facing, what the problem being proposed by the government side of the House is true when they propose that I'm so sorry. When they propose that the problem in the developing country, we are facing overpolluted, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that this is we need to focus on more on preserving our environment. But when they mention that when they mention that the biggest problem of their cases is that they want to subsidize electric vehicles because of there is the existence of disaster, for example. But we don't understand what disaster that they mean, ladies and gentlemen, because we think that it's quite inevitable to stop disaster, right? So we think. And also, we found no correlation how they are what do they mean by disaster, and how using electric vehicles is going to stop that disaster to happen. Several rebuttals when they mention about not effective to use to go for public transport, for example, because of the small amount. We think that what we need to do is not by moving to the electric vehicles. We think that what you need to do is that improving the status quo. We need to improve the amounts of the units that we have as the public transport itself, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, that's how we are going to at least have better reducing carbon emission at the end of the day. And also, when they mention that they are going to build charging station, we think that they are so assumptive in imagining how easy in order to build the charging stations, ladies and gentlemen. However, that we are quite rarely finding Pertamina, for example, is in the status quo. We think that that's how it is that not easy in order to build mengisi ulang bahan bakar, ladies and gentlemen, in the status quo. That's and the next one. When they mention that the poorer will get more subsidy, we think that let's assume that our government is so angelic, right? But we think that the next problem that we are going to face is that the lack facility in the status quo, because of at the end of the day, if we are having lack facility, we are going to suffer. They are going to be suffer as the poor at the end of the day. The question that they answer is that they need to answer how significant their proposal is going to be. So what do we want as the opposition side of the House? We believe that the problem is that on the developing world is having deforestation problem. We think the subsidized electric vehicles is not the solution, and even if it is the solution, it is not significant. We think that the problem on the deforestation, industry, factories, and coal mining, for example, and that's why our solution is that we want to allocate the budget for subsidizing from subsidizing electric vehicles to heavily support environmental conservation, for example, like urbanization, green city, and urban area, providing more facility related to environment, like green technology, for example, and also do more allocation to the public transport and doing more campaign upon that, ladies and gentlemen. However, even if that we are forced to play on the side of government, for example, we say that the facility for electric vehicles is not proper enough to support the changes in developing countries. Let's assume that the subsidies is going to trigger rapid changes, right, in the status quo. We think that the goal of subsidizing in order to reducing emission or minimizing environment damage is totally good from them. But we think that that's not going to happen because of, at the end of the day, the one that we need to also think about our society, how that they are going to what is that not being problematic in using this, ladies and gentlemen. We think that the lack of facility is going to be problematic for them. However, global warming is in developing country need to see what they are capable of, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, we need because we found the characterization of developing country that they are having the most forest and they are being reliable on that for the world itself. That is network. So we think that it is the one of the capability of the developing country. That's why we think we need to focus on that in order to reduce carbon emission at the end of the day. Argumentation. We think on the first one, comparison mechanism. We think that subsidizing electric vehicles is not going to work because society's trust is not going to be there yet. Why? Because of the slow progress in building charging station and other facility, for example, is going to be slow because only focus on transportation issue. However, there are more issues that we need to cater, for example, like deforestation and preserving our nature, for example. Therefore, in comparative to our side, we think that we are going to have better chance and faster mechanism in order to preserve our nature, right? Because of we are going to have because of that's our capability in order to provide a better forestation, for example. However, also what we are facing in the status quo is that we are losing 30% of our forest in the status quo. Therefore, we think that it is pretty important to take care on that point. So. And second of all, we think that it is beside of doing massive revitalization, for example, we are going to also campaigning upon public transportation. And the next one, characterization upon developing countries. We think that when we rely heavily on forests, we need to focus on this. Second characterization, we think that they are also raising industrial numbers. Even if the electric vehicles is scattered, for example, is your effort. We think that your effort is going to be useless because of that problem is not exclusive. You are polluted through industrial side anyway. Therefore, what do we want as the opposition? We need to chill on that. We need to chill on the government side's proposal. We need to slow down. Let's think first. Let's focus on green technology and preserving nature first, and then let's talk later on if we already have enough facility. For example, like green technology, let's talk further about providing subsidize about electric vehicles at the end of the day. We think also the price of conventional vehicles in comparative to electric vehicles is not that significant. We think that, however, people is not really interested in purchasing electric vehicles at the end of the day because they know that the facility is lacking in the status quo, right? So therefore, what we want to do is that we want to maximizing campaign of the use of public transportation, because what we see in the status quo, the problem is that the paradigm in society that believe it is cheaper to use your own vehicles to mobilize. That is the one that cause the overpopulated vehicles that cause the high carbon emission in transportation. Our solution is that we need to shift to do the public transport in order to reducing massive and overpopulated vehicles. That's how we think that we are going to also minimize carbon reduction and also minimize traffic jam. And also the problem that in developing country, not only on transportation, but industrial rising and deforestation, which is needed for our development as dilemma. Therefore, our focus should be shifted to preserve environment first in comparative to their side, ladies and gentlemen. Proudly, we say that we remind you to not forget to do ILJ. Thank you.
Thank you to the first speaker of opposition. Now we call upon the second speaker of government. To Nabila, time is yours.
Okay, am I audible? Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to give you to the first speaker of the opposite side. So the first speaker of the opposite side says that rather than subsidizing electric vehicles to the society, why don't just giving like a project or a movement so the society will be more useful so the society could use the public transportation, right? But actually you need to know that one of the characterization of the society right now in the developing country is that the society is more comfortable on using their own vehicle, and not just that, there are a lot of and not just that, the public transportation is also known because of their sanitation, and that is why there is lack of society that wants to use the public transportation. And the first speaker of the opposition says also says that that by subsidizing electric vehicle is not enough to reduce the emission gas, but actually because we are talking in the developing country, which is actually overpopulated, just like my first speaker has already told you, it is overpopulated, and most of them are using their own vehicle. I mean, take a look at Jakarta. Okay, all of them are using their own vehicle, and that is like super traffic in there, and that is why the gas and is why the greenhouse emission that was caused by the vehicle itself keep on increasing, and that is what we doesn't want. And that is also why we believe that by subsidizing the electric vehicle, which we know that it is eco-friendly, it could reduce the emission gas too. And for the opposition too, how will you make sure that the campaign of urbanization is enough? I mean, the characteristic of the society is if you could make sure that the campaign of the urbanization is enough, then obviously right now there are already a lot of trees that are planted right now. While actually in the urban area, because we are talking in a developing country, there are not many area to plant that. It's only in the rural area, and because the society is ignorant, and they are egoistic, they are not truly aware for this urbanization campaign. Okay, and that is why, moving on to my argument, if the opposition side is afraid that it could actually harm the other sector, well, don't. Okay, because from the beginning there are the government has already had um, its own minister that will handle the for the urbanization, and will handle for the society, handle also for this electric vehicle subsidizations, and that is why it won't harm the other sectors. And the and we believe that the government should heavily subsidize it because it will much more affordable for the society. Okay, because just like my first speaker has already told you, we are giving the subsidization based on the income, and for as we know, right, the economic situation in the developed country is not really balanced, which we can see from the low living standards. And that is why, if we heavily subsidize the electric vehicles, it could encourage the people to buy this vehicle, because usually the consumer will respond pretty sharp to the changes in the purchase price, right? And why we think that the electric vehicle could encourage the people, because it is the government itself that was giving this subsidization, and we could also say it is the government itself who started this movement, who started this movement. And now, and why? No, thank you. And why does the EV and why does the electric vehicle could create a more healthy environment? Because it could minimize and reduce the emission. Because as we know, the electric vehicle is eco-friendly, it doesn't reduce any emission, which really is the purpose of the environment. No, thank you. To reduce and minimize. Because like in what I've said before, the developing country overpopulated, and a lot of them is using vehicle of their own, right, which emission, and it could also trigger the society, because what I like to clarify is that the government didn't force the society to buy it, but it's more about a direct movement, a direct campaign from the government to encourage and aware the society of how crucial the emission that is happening in their country. And if we don't subsidize it, then it won't ever solve the problem, while the gas emission is keep on worsening and keep on increasing right now. And that is why this movement, if it doesn't and this is why if this movement doesn't dijalankan, then it could create a domino effect. What does I mean by domino effect? It could harm first, it could harm the environment. Okay, the environment will getting worse because we didn't solve the problem of the emission gas. When we know how bad the emission gas is, not just because it could affect to the society for the whole respiratory disease, but it's also with the emission of the greenhouse gas. It could harm the atmosphere upstairs, which then give us a UV and impact again to the society of the whole of the society itself. And not just that, our nation, for example, one of the developing country, our nation, Indonesia, it has already signed the Paris Agreement and strongly wanted to implement that Paris Agreement, and that is why this movement could also be one of the implementation of that Paris Agreement. And if we don't subsidize the electric vehicle, it could harm the name of the government itself, because the developing
Correction.
no, thank you, because we all know that the developing country is the one that the most donating emission gas. And that is why we as the government side are proud to propose this motion.
Thank you to the second speaker of government. Now we call upon the second speaker of opposition. To Abdi, time is yours.
Okay, Kak, thank you. Am I audible? Okay. Due to my connections, I will turn off my camera, and I will start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. As opposition side of the House, we think that the biggest problem in developing nations is not merely about transportations, which create a lot of emissions usage, but also there are still a lot of problems like deforestation that still massively happen. Also industries that create a lot of emissions because of the productions. And also we are going to say that there's still a problem, which is the capability to produce electricity massively with green technology, right? Not to mention how, for example, in the status quo, most of the developing nations are still pandering on coal burning and other material to produce the electric power to supply the nation's demands, right? Yes, green generators like solar panel or wind generator is applied, but we think that it's only in a small area, which is that doesn't enough to cover all the needs from society, ladies and gentlemen. Before move to my argument, I'm going to discharge several things coming from government side of the House. The only idea that still reliable on government side of the House from first speaker and also second speaker is that they believe that the biggest problem that we have to face in the current status quo in developing nation is that the pollutions which is massively produced by the transportations due to the characteristic of the developing nation society, which are tend to use private cars instead of the public transportations due to the several problems that they mentioned. I think that transportation is not the solution, just like what I've told you before. But okay, let's say that this is the scenario that we have to talk about. Okay, if we think that mass amount of private transportation is the biggest contribution of emission usage because of society tend to use private cars instead of public transportations, like government scenarios, then the solution for their problem is how they have to encourage society to move and use the public transportation itself, and not to encourage them to buy a new type of vehicles for their own sake, ladies and gentlemen. This is exactly the idea coming from oppositions, that we want to allocate more the budget to cut one of the root problem, which is the massive amount of emissions produced by the massive amount of private cars itself, ladies and gentlemen. Jagat have told you the short brief about that we want to improve the service and also the facilities for public transportations to make the society feel comfort to use it in the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. If they say that they don't like, if they say that the society don't like to use public transportation because they don't want to trap in the crowd, okay, we are going to give more armada in one road, for example, in order to give more option for the society to choose the best for them. Also, we are going to make a maximum quota for a passenger in one trip, so there will be no crowd anymore. So people or society will choose to do the public transportations. Okay, idea of public transportations from government side of those has been crumbled down, right? So move to my argument. I'm going to talk about two things on how, for example, the methods of government on encouraging this electric mobility is an effective method, and also we consider it a missing step that I'm going to explain. Second, I'm going to prove you what I'm going to mention why our proposal is much more benefit exclusive, give exclusive benefit for our debate today. So why we say that it is an effective method? In the end, we will say that only a small group of society will afford this type of cars, or even no one will buy it. They will see this cars as something very complicated to use, and it's a burden because all of those facilities that cannot provide by the government, just like Jagat have taught you. We will say that we are simply not ready to give the facilities, ladies and gentlemen, for the new customers. Like how they gonna need the electric stations to recharge their cars, for example, so they'll be able to feel comfort to travel with their electric cars and don't need to worry about the energy itself. But but just like what Jagat have told you, in the end of the day, you cannot go any further to use this car to travel far away because of the facilities that still doesn't exist, cannot provide by the government itself. Why? So we think that the first things that you need to do is that to instead of rushing or jumping in to encourage society to move to the electric cars, it is properly for the government. It is proper for the government to serve for the facilities first and all the service which are going to create a comfortability towards the society who are going to use it. So we believe, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that the only method for government side of the house to imposing their proposals is by supporting our proposals, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that the only way is that by supporting us. What we need exactly is that we put our budget to turn our electric productions from coal-based to be more green, like using solar systems, wind systems, or other green electricity power plan, ladies and like in Japan and other developed nations, ladies and gentlemen. We will argue that this is the only way to cut the root problem of the emission itself, ladies and gentlemen, because we think that what the government side of the house are trying to do is a very jumping method, ladies and gentlemen, because it is useless to turn into electric cars and all when all the facilities are still unable to be acquired, and also we are exactly the government are still unready to support the facilities itself because we are still unable to produce a huge amount of electricity in a green technology in a very proper way. In the end of the day, their mechanisms, we say that will never effective since we are not ready for this, and by encouraging these mechanisms, it will never cut the root problems of ours, ladies and gentlemen, which is the cutting the emissions itself, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we believe that our proposal will be more exclusive instead of their proposal. What we want is that it's very clear. We are going to allocate the budget more on the development of preservations, the environment, and so on, and also green technology. Get rid from coal burning, producing electric power. Get rid from coal burning on producing electric power, support industries to be more green and eco-friendly, and so on, ladies and gentlemen. This will give you pragmatic benefit. For example, whenever you preserve more on environment, it will give us more oxygen and reduce the temperature of our earth, for example, and all those benefits. I think I'm running out of time, so thank you.
Thank you to the second speaker of opposition. Now we call upon the third speaker of government. To Iqbal, time is yours.
All right, I will start my speech. Am I on the road? I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Before I give a strengthen for my teammates, I will give a rebuttal first for the opposition side of house. So you say with this subsidized only can touched by the privileged society. But we as a government, we wanna we will start for the society in the urban area who have a more privilege in the society, and um, we want to really make this as a priorities. It's because the population by the vehicle, it's a very give a big presentation on the population on the emission, and yeah, I will give a strengthen for my team. First of all, we should know about the characterization of the developing country. Developing country, it's the penyumbang population to Earth, such as like Indonesia, India, Thailand, and the others developing country. And that is why this electric vehicle is a very needed by the developing countries. Moreover, in the basic of the developing country itself. And with the subsidies of the electric vehicle, it can make the stigma of a society about the electric mobility it's getting lower. And as we know, society it's like about the knowledge about the climate change, and they are just still believe that that it's okay for them to make their unusual vehicle use a gas like that. And from that, we use the campaigns to make them realize about that, about the how the important the globalization, and they just the people in a society like the people in our society, it's just more interest to use their own private transportation, and they are also society have a stigma about electromobility. It's too expensive. It's getting low. With our campaign, the stigma of a society about the electric mobility, it's what it's too expensive, it's getting lower and getting lower. It it will getting lower, and also the government is will helping to the environment, will them to make the environment will much better, and then it's getting back to the society. And why we wanted the government to use and provide subsidies of the electromobilities, because the government is the side who have a big power to doing that job. And from the subsidies, when the product of the electromobilities was a lot, and was a lot of people was used that, the price of that electric vehicle is really getting lower neither, right? And like was my first speaker was explaining, we will not give the other sector in, we will not give the harm for the another sectors in the government, because we just allocated this to handle by the Minister of Perhubungan and the Transportation. So you should not worry about what will happen to the sector. And when we use these subsidies to electromobilities, and about this, we as a government do not want to be like a memaksa people to use this, but give, but with this we give subsidies. We just like want to make the campaigns to mengajak their society to use it, and the electric vehicle to use the electric vehicle. And to start that, we will start from the people of the minister who have that, like I would explain that, have a privilege, more privilege, like the minister, and was from that we try to mengajak society to use that too. Like, well, and also like my second speaker was say, and also she say like about the health of the environment, who have a big massive part to the society. And in our statistical right now, the environment was really bad because of the about the pollution from what the vehicle done to us. And moreover, in the big city of the developing country, and this population of the all the vehicle give a lot of damage to society itself, and they are give a harm more rather than the industry. And the industry field would have the counterbalance to tackle their pollution, but not with the transportation problem. So that is why it is justified to us to use these societies and use to the electric vehicle. And also, like my first speaker was explained from the pencarian by the fossil gas, it was a very harmful to the government, not the government, to the environment. Because when we want to look out for the materials, it's we should dig the earth so deep. That's because give a lot of harm for the environment and also to the another natural resources. And to make our plane can go as well, we have a mechanism like from that subsidies to make the charges recharge station to the public to the electric mobilities. So our plan about the electric mobilities can be started. And yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you to the third speaker of government. Now we call upon the third speaker of opposition. To Salma, time is yours.
Okay, I preference is only unmute your mic. So I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. We believe the burden of proof should given by the government team first. They should explain how it will be effective and significant to reduce number of emission production by prioritize only one sector, such as the electric vehicle itself. And the second, how the electric vehicle will bring benefit for developing country, even we should give heavily subsidized only for them. And then we know that in the developing country, it's not only about the environment from the electric vehicle itself, because there are so many problems in our sector, such as education, economy, and health also. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, it's very unjustified when we give the heavily subsidized electric vehicle. Heavily mean that you prioritize subsidize for the electric vehicle. So we believe it can be in fact our budget from the other sector itself, ladies and gentlemen. So there is why we don't want to give the only heavily subsidized for electric vehicle itself, but we want to consider the subsidies for or the budget for the all of sector in our country as developing country. So first of all, I have response and rebuttal for the government team. First, government team say that the agency of them to conduct this motion, it's because developing country it's one of the sorry, one of the source of the pollution it's from of the vehicles. But ladies and gentlemen, we believe it is the pollution from the vehicles too. But there are so many there's so many pollution contribution. There is so many pollution. It's not only come from the vehicle itself. There are so many factory or the industry conducting in the developing country itself. So there is why, ladies and gentlemen, the emission or the pollution it's not only from the electric vehicle itself. And in here, we're not ignoring the existence of the electric vehicle. But in here, we not only want to give the or prioritize the subsidy of that. And about the public transportation, they say that the public transportation it's not effective enough, because no society want to use it. So there's why, ladies and gentlemen, we want to maximize the number of public transportation itself, so it can easily for our society to use, such as the electric train or bus itself. It is the same like the electric vehicle. We still can use the green technology, right, in the electric train or the electric bus itself. So there's why, ladies and gentlemen, it's not only can decrease the number of the pollution, but at least we can reduce the number of the traffic jam. it's such as problem in the developing country. And next, they say, and the government team say that they want to make society familiar with the electric vehicle, so they will make it popular by decrease the cost of the EV by the subsidies itself. But ladies and gentlemen, we believe society familiar enough for the electric vehicle itself, and I believe the cost still affordable. And even if at the end of the day the cost is lower than our status quo, but are you guarantee all of people can buy it and throw away the conventional vehicle right now and just want to buy the electric vehicle? No, right? But the conventional vehicle is still exist and still using by the society. And I believe the number of the pollution it's not will be decreased, but in our side we want to maximize the user of the public transportation. It's more benefit. Then we decrease the number of the and we decrease the number of the people use the conventional vehicle also, ladies and gentlemen. And so next to my argument, next to my theme argument. In here, I found two class points in this debate. First, whether or not developing country heavily give subsidize for the electric vehicle itself. And the second, whether or not electric vehicles should be prioritized to protect our environment. First, whether or not developing country heavily subsidize electric vehicle itself. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe developing countries should not heavily subsidize the electric vehicle. Why I say that? Because the problem right now in our developing country not only about the environment, there are so many sectors we should pay attention about, such as in education, economic, and health. And and right now, let's we compare. If we give the heavily subsidies only for electric vehicles, automatically the budget for the education, economic, and healthy sector will be decreased, right? So there is, well, ladies and gentlemen, we don't want to prioritize only the electric vehicles itself on the only one side sector, but we want to maximize the all of sector what as the problem in our country as developing country. And the second classes is whether or not electric vehicles should be not prioritized to protect our environment. We believe that our mechanism is clear, delivered by my first and second argument. And we believe our mechanism is faster because we touch all of the root of the problem, all of the problem, because we not only want to prioritize the electric vehicles to solve the environment issue itself, but we also want to maximize the revitalization, green city, of maximize the user of public transportation itself, ladies and gentlemen, and it can automatically decrease the number of the deforestation or the factory forestation by the industry itself. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, then the proposal of the government only want to solve the only want to take one action by the production more electric vehicle itself, right? But they forgot about the production of electric. We want to charge to the electric vehicle. It's the contribute emission, because our electric source is the coal right now, ladies and gentlemen. If there is no such as the solar energy, right? So there is, well, ladies and gentlemen, we believe we not ready enough to use the electric vehicle. So why we should heavily subsidize the electric vehicles itself? Then the facilities such as the charge of the electricity energy from the solar itself, it's still less in our country. So we believe in our side the green technology still exists also. So because that reason I oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you to the third speaker of opposition. Now we would like to call upon the reply speaker of the opposition. Time is yours.
All right, I'm going to start. I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, as the opposition side of the house, we already argue to you how that in our side, it is better for us to focus first on our mechanism in status quo in providing better facility, for example, for these electric vehicles, and also preserving our natures, for example, and also maintaining what the problem coming from government side of the house by using the campaigning on public transportation from the first place, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we think that we already argue on several important points. And also what we found on the government side of the house when they mention about they are going to conduct several mechanism in order, like calling the ministry, for example, and relying on them in doing their plan or mechanism, for example. But we think that as the opposition side of the house, we never question on that idea, because of we think that that's not really important in to talk in this debate, because of that's not because of they at the end of the day never explain how that it is going to be very successful in their mechanism at the end of the day. So when they also argue that they are going to for example, explaining how it is that it is going to be good and effective, for example, but they never explain how that they are going to have how in their mechanism they are going to still success. However, in the status quo that we are having less facility in order to support the electric vehicles itself, ladies and gentlemen. And also they never explain how significant that their changes is going to create upon reducing the emission carbon itself when they are going to turn upon the electric vehicles from conventional vehicles itself, ladies and gentlemen. And also they never characterize how that in their side, even without enough facility, people will likely to move upon the electric vehicles in comparative to the conventional vehicles. However, we already argue to you, even if that we are going to assume that people are going to shift to the electric vehicles, for example, we is still in the second speaker has already argued to you how that in our status quo in developing country, our electricity is even still from coal power plant, ladies and gentlemen. So we think that at the end of the day, this electricity is going to be in higher demand. So we think that the coal power plant is going to provide more carbon emission at the end of the day. So we think that it is better for us to improve upon the status quo first, ladies and gentlemen, to first improving our power plant into a move into the green, a more green plan, for example, first of all, and also preserving our our nature first, because of what we see in the status quo is that carbon emission from transportation is not the exclusive problem, because of several problems are actually happening in the status quo. For example, like industrial rising and also deforestation. So that's why we need to take care on that point first by doing some kind of mechanism by preserving nature and also doing conservation at the very first place, ladies and gentlemen. And also, we think that we already argued to you how through public transport we are going to be able in order to cater their problem, that overpopulated vehicles, for example, because of we are going to improve the status quo by providing more units, for example, and also limiting the number of passengers, for example. That's how we think that we are going to succeed, and we are going to subsidize the public transport in order to catch the attention from the society. Therefore, we proud to speak in the grand final. Thank you. Jangan lupa ALC.
Thank you. Yes, we shall not forget ALC. Okay, now to close this debate, we are going to call upon the reply speaker of government. Time is yours.
Okay, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. We already told you in the very beginning that the problem right now is about the environment, which is the characterization of the developing country is they use so much of private transportation that it already create the developing country with the most pollution in the developing country is come from the private transportation itself. And we also already told you that the previous attempts of the government which is used the public transportation is already failed because that backwards with the characterization of the society in the developing country, which is I already told you in the very beginning. The society in the developing country is jostle and meet with other people, it's and I already told you attempts like the revolution or the campaign is not effective at all because now we are in the urban era, which is we need to be more modern with the globalization. And the second one, we already told you before that the problem of society is why they will not use the electric vehicle itself because they feel that the electric vehicle is expensive to buy. And so that's why we wanted to give them subsidized, so it will more affordable to them. And that in our mechanism, is it clear that we will give subsidies by the income. So it means that it will be capable with their income, that higher income will get the lower subsidies and something like that, and it will capable with the characterization of the economy in the developing country that it's not balanced yet. And then other clear mechanism, we already told you that we also will make sure this will be harm other country sector, that we already told you we will concentrate only in the Minister of Transportation, each minister in our country already have their allocation of the dana. And also the use of electric vehicle is not create pollution, and from the electric and 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 the electric charger will create pollution as much as the transportation we use right now. And then you don't even touch our point about the long-term effect that we will bring here, that the further effect of the environment include the discover of the fossil fuels of this transportation will damage our ecology of land and ecology of land, and that will harm our environment more. And lastly, we already talked about the supply and demand concept of the economy, that at the end, if we already subsidize and more people wanted to buy it, slowly the price of this electric vehicle will be expensive anymore in our country or in the other the developing country. I think that's all for us. Thank you.
Thank you to the reply speaker of the government team. That concludes our debate for today in the grand final. A big applause again to all of the participants, to the grand finalists. And now the judges are going to deliberate on the results. So I'm going to give a few minutes for the judges and also for myself, and we'll come back to you later with the results. So I give the time back to the MC. Thank you, Iqbal.